All right, now for a reaction from my panel, Mark Penn, former Microsoft Chief Strategic Officer, also former Hillary Clinton Chief Strategist, Eric Schiffer, Reputation Management Consultants Chairman, and Sarah Westwood, Washington Examiner White House Correspondent. Mark, let me start with you. It's been pretty riveting so far. I mean, it's getting repetitive, but a lot of points that Congressman Blackburn just brought up here, some political pulling back and forth, but the central issue here about privacy, about ownership of information, and where we go as this problem only grows in significance.
Yeah, look, I'd say his demeanor was good. He was contrite. And I think, you know, the senator's questioning was not exactly the most difficult. I think behind the questioning are serious policy issues. You know, who owns the data? Look, they're locking down their platform, as he said. And, well, you know, that's to their advantage. That cuts out any competition, and the truth of the matter is they do exactly what Cambridge Analytica does, which is build models in order to place the ads. And so by locking out any competition, I mean, Cambridge Analytica was unauthorized, but what you really see here is they're welcoming regulation in a way that, in fact, establishes and enhances their position. Sure, the more regulation you have, the more impossible it will be for someone else to come in. So I think he's winning both in demeanor and in substance so far.
Well, to your point, the stock, I think, was up $3 or so when the hearing began. It closed up more than $7, 4.5% on the session. So maybe Wall Street agreeing with you on that point. But, Eric, you're the reputation expert. Is he winning with respect to the reputation of Facebook, particularly on some of these things when it comes to censorship or cutting out certain people like a Diamond and Silk, for instance, while promoting other far-left entities?
Okay, so two issues. You know, one is the conservative side. The other is Facebook as a brand. And I think the bleeding has been curtailed a lot today, Charles. And he did that, I think, through being direct in his answers. And frankly, Congress and many of the Congress men and women, I think, were weak in the way in which they approached this. I mean, they were pretty easy on him overall. It could have been a lot tougher. And he was able to handle it. So I think it's put this behind Facebook now at this point. Now the next battle will be on regulation, what really happens. And I think Wall Street is seeing that they can get through this. I think they can get through it. So overall, I think he's serving them. Now on the conservative side, I think there's a lot of big questions that remain in how fair they really are and whether or not that's going to continue. My biggest question, Charles, is
Eric,
what's
while you're
going to happen
talking,
in the election?
the audiences we're watching as Zuckerberg is taking a seat again. So quickly, I want to go to Sarah Westwood on this. It feels like some bipartisan support on a rare issue here, and that's regulating Facebook and some of their competitors. Any thoughts on that, Sarah?
I thought it was a really interesting line of questioning that Zuckerberg faced, which was sort of the comparison to big banks, whether regulations could have the unintended consequence of shutting potential future competitors out of the market with Facebook, the way that bank regulations sort of backfired in favor of the big banks by holding down smaller community banks because they didn't have the resources to comply. And Zuckerberg sort of admitted that that could be an effective additional regulation. So that'll be interesting to see how hard Facebook fights those regulations or whether they embrace them because of, you know, the potential benefits.